following is a production of the Fairfax Network, funded in part by the U.S. Department of Education and the Virginia Satellite Educational Network.
The face of America is changing. With rapid growth in Hispanic and Asian populations over the last 2 decades, this increasing diversity is reflected in the nation's schools. In 1990, Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia responded to demographic changes in its community by forming multicultural parent panels to educate teachers and administrators about cultural values and practices that affect family involvement in schools.
Hi, I'm Alva Binder, and I'm the African American representative for the Multicultural panel. One of them, I might add. There's several of us, and I also sometimes represent the Caribbean community because my family is originally from Trinidad.
My name is Salma Ashmawi. Originally, I am from Egypt, and so is my husband. We came here as students, both of us, and then decided to make this our home.
My name is Hoa, and I am from Vietnam. I have been in this country 36 years. I came here at age 18 to go to school. And as the war broke out, so I never made it back to Vietnam. Since then, I have been married to an Irish American, and I have 3 children, and I brought them up here in this country.
My name is Ray Vincent. I was born in Baghdad, Iraq, which is in the Middle East, of course. I'm a Christian. Most of Iraq is Muslim.
Hi, my name is Bernadette Malamed, and I come from a very spicy tossed salad of ethnical background. And I'd like to share that experience with you. My father is from Mexico. He is Mexican, Spanish, and Italian. And he married my mother, who is from Scotland, and she also has Czechoslovakian.
And the education system in Colombia, and I'm going to talk about particularly Colombia because that's the country where I'm from, is mandated by the Minister of Education. He's the one that decides everything that we are going to be having in the curriculums for the school. We have no say at all. We don't have any electives. We take a lot of classes, and that's just how it is. We're not invited to the schools unless that there is something going on, especially social occasion. We are very sociable people, so we like to go to parties, and we're loud and touching and hugging, and that's us. Even though we're like that, not everybody who is Hispanic is like that, because if they're from the coast of any country or the mountain region, they're probably more reserved a little bit. So it depends on what country.
During this program, 2 staff members of Fairfax County Public Schools Family Services and Involvement Section, Karen Willoughby and Ann Olmschneider, will discuss their experience in creating and building multicultural parent panels into an effective staff development tool. Parent panelists will also share their insights into cultural issues that affect schools. And you'll hear from teachers and administrators who've experienced the multicultural parent panel presentation.
As I recall, Ann, the reason we started the parent panels was because of the changing demographics in Fairfax. We wanted to make sure that our instructors, as they went out to do parent programs in the evening, that they would remember that not everybody is the same, not everybody rears their children the same, and we wanted people to really embrace the diversity in the county and to help the audiences understand that the information was for everyone.
I think one of the things that people learn in watching a panel that includes African American, European American, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, is that while there are differences, and we're talking about differences, they're struck by the commonalities. Seeing 5 or 6 people with different ethnicities, different racial types, different religions, sitting at a table and hitting common themes, that we all care deeply about our children, that we all want our children to do well in school. People share stories, and the power of a person's story to communicate something is pretty amazing. It strikes people in the heart, and it gives them something that after they've heard it, they take it away and remember. They may even remember the face of the panelist who told them something. The story is a very powerful communication tool.
I was a lawyer in Guatemala, and I had a very nice life. I had all my immigration paper in order. I had a green card, I was educated, and I had some working experience. I thought that it was going to be easy. It was not. I went lowering my standards. From looking for a job as an attorney, I started looking for retail, but my English was not very good, so it was difficult for me. I was scared to talk. In the end, through an agency, I found a nanny job, and it was a nice job.
I think it's important for my students to hear the powerful stories that these parents have experienced and are sharing with them, stories about coming from their country with 2 children with only $2,000 in their pocket and not able to speak any English, and then to hear how they've adjusted and adapted to the U.S. culture. I think it's also important that my students and my teachers take away information about how to reach out to these parents.
What I hope that we accomplish today, having the diversity panel come to Timberlane, is that the staff at Timberlane will be able to hear what education is like in other countries, what parent involvement is like in other countries, and what are some of the reasons why it appears there is not a desire to be involved in the school, but it's not that. It's out of respect for the teacher as a professional. And what I'm really hoping is that as a staff, we walk around in parent shoes, and we also then understand the shoes that the parents walk around in and why they may not be so anxious to come to school. It has nothing to do with us and everything to do with culture.
When I introduce a panel to a school audience, I encourage people to think about the fact that there are home cultures and there's a school culture. And what our panel is trying to do is to share some aspects of various home cultures with the school so that they can come to understand the children better and help them succeed in school with that knowledge. It's a way of bridging the gap between home and school. So framing it as home culture, school culture is an important umbrella to hang over the panel.
I struggled to be a real American for the last 15 to 17 years with the language, with the lifestyle, and even with the thought process. And I feel like I can never be a real American. I still feel very Korean at this point.
I enrolled my kids in 1st grade. They didn't know English. I did. I thought that I did because I studied English in Guatemala. My problem was that my ear was not used to it, and so the first time somebody spoke to me, I could not understand. I put the radio on and I could not even understand the time of the day. It was a scary feeling because when I came here, I was sure that I could understand. After a while, my ear got used to it, but I was very, very scared about talking. I knew what I wanted to say, and I had the idea how to say it, but when I spoke, it sounds so different from everybody else.
It was kind of difficult for me because I thought that I knew a little bit of English, and when I came here I realized that I really didn't know much. So just started to take English classes and started to go into college. And it was very hard for me to study because, I didn't understand everything. And especially taking notes at school, it was very hard because I had to write everything phonetically, exactly the way that I heard it.
Many of our panelists have to translate. They hear English, but then they have to translate it in their own language before they can answer back a lot of times.
Suddenly there's things you hear on the street about, oh, these immigrants just don't want to learn English.
Yes.
They don't care about learning English. They just want to speak Spanish, or they just speak Arabic at home. You realize it's not a question of not wanting to learn English, that people know that English is a tool for success here in the U.S.
But I think we as the audience participants here in this country have to be willing to be more patient of those who have an accent or who speak slower.
In Vietnam, education is a very precious commodity. For us to be educated is to get ourselves out of difficulties and poverties of life. And with the war constantly erupting, I can tell you from my own experience, I have been uprooted 2-3 times. And so for us going to school is also a challenge.
Every time he went to a class and we had that parent-teacher conference afterwards, the teacher, first thing she says, she looks at me and says, "Are you sure he's in this grade? He really does not belong. He should be." And then she would name whatever grade is lower. It was very difficult for me to handle this because I did not know, well, if he is not at level, why aren't you helping him be at level? Or what is expected of me? It seemed like a criticism at me and my child. And it also felt like I was failing him. There must have been something I should have done that I didn't do, and I didn't know better until this one teacher, one year, he went in and she looked at me and said, you don't need to worry about this. We'll have to take care of that, and he needs to learn responsibility.
But when I started going to my children's school and finding out so many things, just going there and seeing the place so different, I was kind of shocked. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how things worked, and it took me a little while to get used to it. Now my children are in high school, and as the years go by, I find out that every year is a new experience for me. I need to learn what's going on now in high school. Okay, what do we need to do? We need to do all this kind of standardized testing that we don't have in Colombia. We need to do all this kind of preparation, SATs. That was another thing, just the acronyms. I could never understand what they were saying.
One of the common problems I notice is this is for the most of the immigrants. Since they are newcomer, they need to work hard, and in many cases they need to have 2, even 3 jobs. And so they leave home very early in the morning and they come home very late in the evening, and then the parents do not have time to see the children.
That's when my problems worsened, because now I had a job, but I didn't have the time to help my children. They didn't know how to speak English, and they didn't know how to do homework. My mother could not help them because my mother does not speak English. So sometimes I had to help them by phone.
I remember it was important to go to school, but family was the most important. And if my mother was sick, or my father wasn't feeling well, or one of us needed attention, the older ones would stay home from school and care for their younger ones, or care for mom. So it wasn't pushed like, no, school is all important. family was first and foremost.
My experiences in school were very positive. So as a result, I'm very comfortable coming into the school system and sharing concerns and trying to resolve issues. But my granddaughter's mom didn't have positive experiences. And as a result, when she comes into the school system, she's very nervous. She gets very upset.
We grew up with the idea that women have to care for the men. They are responsible at home. They are supposed to take care of everything that concerns the family, and men are the breadwinners.
The school was the first door that I knocked to get into the system in the United States. I was shocked and I was scared, and many things that I didn't know I needed to learn. The school was the first place where I found the help that I was looking for.
I did find that his best experiences, though, were with those teachers who encouraged him to be more than the soccer player or the basketball player, but those that encouraged him to leadership.
When my daughter came to that same grade and also had a family heritage assignment, her teacher gave an assignment that was much more flexible. Instead of insisting that everyone do a family tree, she gave students 50 options. They could choose 10 out of the 50 and include them in a family heritage book. So my daughter did choose to do a family tree. She put my branch of the tree with my grandparents and great-grandparents and my husband's branch. And in the middle of the tree, she included a branch for her birth mother and her birth father. And she also included in her booklet information about Korea, being adopted from Korea, a Korean folk tale. So we were happy to see that she was able to use the assignment as a way of coming to terms with both parts of her identity.
Friday nights are a big night for us. That tends to be family night at the synagogues, and that's pretty much nationally. And so we love our school dances and our school parties and international nights, but we do hope to make them, and we also try to make things at the synagogue. So it's great when a school is accommodating and they don't always have activities. There are 4 social events out of the year on a Friday night. That helps us out.
My oldest daughter chose to wear the hijab, the head cover that I have on, which is part of being a Muslim woman. And she made that decision right before she got into middle school. She's had times where, several times actually, where boys would try to tug it off her head. The school's response was really beautiful. In middle school, the principal actually asked for an article of some sort, piece to put in the newsletter that would explain why Muslim women wear the hijab, the head cover. And it was published, and from that day on, she has not had any problems.
3 keys to the success of multicultural parent panels are planning, evaluation, and training of panelists. Before each presentation, panelists meet to discuss the key issues they will cover.
For today's meeting, I want to start by calling attention to an article which I emailed to everybody. If you haven't opened your email yet today, it will be on there. When I read this, I thought this is really important for all of us on the panel to read, because it has the most recent demographics about the metro area and how the demographics in this area are somewhat different from the rest of the country. And I think we see this a lot when we're going out and doing panels. The main point of the article is that the immigrant labor force is still growing, even though the economy has slowed down. And they attribute the drawing power of immigrants towards the fact that they have family networks here.
Whatever they mention also, it should be made a point that, even though, you go down in status, professionally, the pay is way better than whatever they will make there.
Oh.
So, you know, it sort of, in that sense, compensates. And that's why a lot of people, even though, you know, the status will change, they rather come here and get a living, you know, because that's something that they couldn't really get there. In Colombia, you can find a taxi driver that is a lawyer. And he works, you know, during the evenings, and then during the day he works in a law office. But still, you know, probably he would make more doing the taxi driving than at the law office. Right. So a lot of people are just looking into the economics.
And the same way with the Egyptians who come here, since education over there is almost free. College education is almost free. It's minimal. Everybody graduates from college, but there's no work. And that's where they come here and they work anything, because it's better than sitting at home and doing nothing and not having an income.
Right.
And you will find there a lot of engineers and doctors who are taxi drivers in Egypt, because they can't find a job as an engineer or a doctor.
Right. Elementary, I'm trying to think what their concerns would be.
Well, they do a lot
Bullying.
of curriculum too. Bullying.
That's a major thing that's going on in elementary school. But at this point, I think they're starting with elementary. They're catering it, and I know in my son's school, they had a whole week of sessions with the counselors where they go in and talk to kids about bullying. So
character education's real big.
I think also testing, right?
Okay. He wants them to process all the information from the whole day and apply it to a project they would work at their school or office.
Good.
So that's a good goal, you know, for a staff development, that you actually take this information and apply it. Now, I haven't had an actual conversation with Larry to say, what could the panelists do that would lead into this? Part of the reason we were able to learn from one another was that we always took the time to sit down together before a panel and talk about what is it that this client is looking for, what is this school or this group facing that we can help provide insights for. And in the course of doing that, we always learned from each other. In addition, after we completed a panel, we would sit down together and say, what went well with this panel? What could we have done better? We talked about our individual presentations. We talked about any particular questions that might have come up that were difficult to handle or problematic.
That's an important piece, that we've provided training for people so that they have that, not only if they have the cultural experience that we would like for them to share, but they also have to be able to stand in front of a group of people and to articulate that viewpoint. And so we've provided some of that training that they've needed and that support, sort of like a cocoon we've built around them so that they feel comfortable and they can connect with other people in the office. I think those are really very important points for people to know who want to do this too. That's how we made the changes. That was why we made so many of the changes. I remember we videotaped ourselves, we audio taped ourselves, and we would listen and play it back to see how well did we do, what was our timing like. So those are the growing pains that I think every program who would want to have a parent panel need to really think about.
It's also very important to have someone moderating the panel who's very comfortable and experienced, who can field questions, can even prompt panelists to make a point that they may have forgotten.
Another thing too the facilitator does is helping to really start it and wrap it up, tie pieces together that are that the participants may not have made the connection. I think that's extremely important. Sometimes the facilitator has to use some crowd control when questions have gone on too long, or if they're just very awkward questions. The facilitator has to step in with that.
We always make sure that we ask our audience to fill out a very short written evaluation, which we then compile. We share it with the client who booked the panel, we share it with all the panelists, and we talk about it.
My reaction to the panel was that they did a wonderful job of presenting both the challenge that we face with the great diversity that we have in Fairfax County, and also the celebration that we can have of the different diversities.
My reaction to the panel was very positive. I think they were very warm and very articulate, and I think they hit a lot of their general statements about parents hit the nail on the head. And one of the, I think the most powerful thing that Janice, one of the panel members, said is the fact, she said it about the African American community, but I think it goes for the entire, all the communities, is that parents want to be treated with fairness and respect.
The part of the presentation that was most helpful was the interactive, questions that we were able to ask. Just the fact that we were able to really pinpoint certain people, because there were some pointed questions that were asked, and I felt that they were really good and very valuable. And the fact that we were able to do that in a very open panel discussion made it a safe environment for teachers to express their concerns and to be able to have an honest answer, following those questions.
On one of my end-of-the-year class evaluations, one of my students wrote in and said, the multicultural panel was the most powerful thing I've ever seen. It really changed the way I view my students and my parents, and it was a life-changing experience for me to listen to some of those stories.
I tell people that all of us are constantly learning about culture. Just by working in diverse settings, we've learned a lot about culture. And that what we're hoping to do with the panel is to bring people a little further along on their journey towards cultural understanding. You come with a lot, and we're hoping to move you along a little bit so that you then will be energized to continue learning.
Multicultural parent panels, successfully educating teachers and administrators about cultural values and practices that affect family involvement in schools.